This is a type of group home. It's the family teaching model that was developed at the University of Kansas. This was a really fascinating model. It's a duplex that's been renovated to have a family that may have children. It's usually a couple. They go through an extensive one-year training in order to become service providers for 3 persons with developmental disabilities, possibly autism, who live on the other side of the duplex. A door goes through attaching the two, and they actually become very much like families. And the teaching family has wonderful benefits. They have a great support system, and it works out very well in the instances where it has been used, and it's actually now being instituted in California as well. Transitional housing, an example of this is Chapel Haven West in Tucson, Arizona. They also have a much larger facility in Connecticut. But this particular one, they took over an old hotel or motel, and they renovated the rooms, and so it's like a dorm room kind of deal. And the students or the young adults come and live there for 3 years, and they partner with the University of Arizona. They go and they take courses and whatnot, and they also get really intensive life skill training with the idea at the end of 3 years they will move out into the community, and many of them stay right in that same area. So, as there's no single prototype that works best for the vast spectrum of adults with autism, the optimal approach is to have a range of residential options available within communities and to work with individuals to find which best suits them. Kind of makes sense, right? So out of this, we developed resident-based design goals. And while you can look at these and see, safety and security, familiar, stability and clarity, et cetera, we all want those kinds of things, but it's how they're specifically defined in relationship to adults with autism that becomes very important. So in safety and security, that's a very big issue, as has been referenced in my 2 colleagues that spoke before me, in not only dealing with how to make sure that they're safe within their environment, but to also make sure that the environment itself is not toxic. A lot of people with autism have things they want to put in their mouth. Make sure that those kinds of things aren't going to cause problems. Familiarity and clarity. Gosh, we know how much people with autism really prefer to know exactly what's happening at all moments. Minimizing sensory overload. Again, very important to do everything you can to sort of make it a very kind of calm and understood environment. Another very important thing is allowing opportunities for controlling social interaction and privacy. People with autism, as we all know, want to be able to make decisions when they want to interact and might want to just be in the same space as another person but not interact with them. So how can they actually have that facilitated within the living environment so that they don't have to sit on the couch next to somebody? They can sit in a window seat and observe what's going on in the room. And then, again, with choice and independence, those two sort of roll in together. Health and wellness, again, looking at, what types of materials you use and enhancing one's dignity. Now, this is very important, and it ranges from selecting the appropriate neighborhood down to being able to allow people to actually, independently just determine how their space operates, to have flexibility within that. Durability. We found this across the board with everybody that we visited, that durability is of a key importance, but not to make the place look like an institution. So how can you find materials that are going to withstand people that might have an interest in just, beating on something, but it's not going to look like it's been destroyed, right? So you have to come up with stuff that's going to work well. And affordability. So most of people with autism are going to be on a restricted budget. And then accessibility and support in the surrounding neighborhood. Very important. We have big issues with NIMBYism, not in my backyard. So how can you make sure that these people are going to be accepted and also find their own way within that? Not just that they're being accepted, but that they accept the neighborhood as well. So we developed specific design guidelines, and these address these key issues, and I'm just going to show you a few of them. Our report is online, and I have the link at the end, and I can be happy to give it to anybody if anybody would like to know more about it. So we started with the neighborhood, that it's very important to find the right neighborhood. Some of the young adults with autism that I interviewed, the thing that they would do absolutely every day of their life was be to bowl. They love bowling. So, you need to find a place where they have access to things that they like to do. They want to go out and eat pizza, needs to be around oops, oh, sorry. Make sure I'm not too long. Okay. They need to be able to get to those things, day programs, if they're going to be working, whatnot. So that's important. The floor plan. I mean, it comes down, to every little thing. So how can it be, as, has been pointed out, how can it be very legible? They understand. It has foreshadowing so that they can come up to a place and be able to see what's happening in that room before they actually enter that room so that they can plan for that, whatever might be the issue that might come out from that. Outdoor spaces, being able to actually have a place to recreate. There's a lot of issues with obesity and autism as they become adults. So how do you make sure that they can actually have a place to recreate that's safe and controlled, and they're not going to be eating oleander, a toxic plant, or something like that. The living room, community rooms, as I said, providing a place where they can be kind of tangential to the experience if they want to be, or be right in the midst of it. Safety and security in the kitchen. One thing that it comes up over and over again, and my daughter who has autism has no sensitivity to heat. So, she'll put her hand right on the burner. There's no problem with that. And we found that over and over again. So how do you make sure that the environment is such that they're not going to have that accidentally happen and not be aware of it? Durability again. Choice and independence so that they can actually go and cook their own meals if they want, or they can have somebody help them if they want. Bedrooms. How do you make it so that they can customize that space to how they want it? Make it so it's clear so that a lot of times people forget to change their clothes. So maybe it's got a really set system so that they can see, this is what you wear on Monday, this is what you wear on Tuesday. Just make sure you clean your clothes, right? Sensory rooms. We've heard that that's it's obviously a big important thing. Be able to have people get away from the chaos of maybe the other residents that they're living with. Bathrooms, again, if you have a toilet that has a tank, a lot of people with autism have water interests. My daughter will play in the water ad nauseum unless I tell her to stop, right? So don't have a toilet with a tank. Sort of things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but become really a key if you're designing for people with autism, because you don't know what their issue might be. And then technology. There's all sorts of new technologies that are coming out to not only increase safety and whatnot, but also to facilitate independent living through different types of devices within the home. Anything from picture schedules to actually videos that help people figure out how to make a meal. And then visual cues, kind of the old-fashioned stuff, schedules and how to make sure something's clear. The issue with colors, color coding spaces in a very straightforward way so that can be another reference on how you might behave within a space. Ventilation, lighting, which Christopher Beaver already touched on. And then materials, finding materials that are appropriate, that are not only going to be responsive to sensory issues, but that are going to be made out of the appropriate things and that are going to be durable. Acoustics, and then appliances and fixtures, really big issues. A lot of times people won't know to turn the oven on or off, so we have things that will turn off automatically. The refrigerator door gets left open, things like this. We have to think about what kind of appliances that we spec. And then to end on, this is an article that was just out this month in the Atlantic Monthly about Donald Trippett, who is actually the first person ever diagnosed with autism by Lee O'Connor all those years ago, and he's now 77 years old. He lives in a small town in Mississippi, completely independently, you might say, except the whole entire town has adopted this man, and so he has become instrumental to the town's identity, and he functions unbelievably well. He's a sort of a world traveler. It's a wonderful, wonderful article I recommend that you read. So I'll just let you read that quote. And that's all I have.